Well, hello there. Time for a day trip. This is the Eiffel Tower's collaboration with My Private Paris, where once a month they take me somewhere fantastic outside of Paris. And today, I'm happy to say, I'm taking you to Vaux-le-Vicomte, which is a privately owned chateau just outside of Paris to the east, maybe the southeast. And it is said to be sort of the inspiration or the blueprint for Versailles. Now, as you're going to hear, because it's privately owned, they're way more open to trying new things, doing unusual or unexpected sort of events and collaborations and activities. And during our visit was by far the most magnificent Christmas decorations I've ever seen in my whole life. I went in there with no expectations. I knew there was something Christmassy. This absolutely floored me. You're going to hear about it in more detail, but if you have the chance in life to go for Christmas, you must do it. I've also been in the summer. It was lovely too, but this Christmas thing was really next level. And if you're not going to make it this year, next year will be the 20th anniversary, so think about that. In this episode, Bertrand, who took me to Champagne and to Versailles recently, he's at the helm, and he messaged me and said, how about we do a family trip? He said, bring friends with kids, we'll get a van and we'll do it as a family trip. And that's exactly what we did. So some of my good friends and their children came out with us. We drove out in a van. There was a private driver. Bertrand did a tour for everybody. But in this episode, you just hear me and him chatting because let's face it, the children were young and didn't have much to say for a podcast episode. A few practicalities. If you want to book a similar trip, you can go on myprivateparis.com. Just make sure you mention the Eiffel Tower so that they know this collaboration is working. Otherwise, there's a link below with a sort of form where you can fill out all the things that you'd like to do, including a trip to Vaux-le-Vicomte, or perhaps making it a full day trip and adding Fontainebleau in. Also, you might be surprised to hear that quite quickly in our visit, one of the owners of the chateau, Jean-Charles de Vaugué, spotted me from a window and came down to say hello. So you'll hear his voice on this show too. I'll be re-releasing the last time I visited this chateau many years ago, as well as some of the videos we did then. So keep your eye on social media, where I'll also be sharing some of the very stunning pictures we got from this Christmas trip too. So check out Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and even YouTube. That's enough from this introduction. I think it's time to go to Vaux-le-Vicomte with My Private Paris. Bertrand Dalmont.
Bonjour, Oliver G.
I heard you say your name when you were talking to the ticket lady, and I've been pronouncing it wrong. I've been saying Dalmont.
It's not far. It's just the "en" sound is too French, I guess. It's hard to say.
What about this for an entrance to a podcast? This music in the background as we walk through this little gate to Vaux-le-Vicomte, the chateau itself. Amazing as ever. What's your... let's walk and talk.
Yeah.
What's... before anything, what's the plan for today?
The plan for today, I wanted to plan a family day trip for your family and your friends. And of all the chateaus around Paris, I think this one is the one where you can turn it into a playground the most. It's a beautiful chateau, has great grounds, and since it's privately owned, you can do many more things like carriage rides and picnics in the grounds and being dressed in, period costumes.
Speaking of where everyone's wearing capes today.
Including you, Oliver, including you.
What's this all about, the capes?
Well, we're in December, so they have, every year they do a really cool setting for Christmas. And so we are given these red capes.
Sort of deep, velvety,
You did say it makes us look like Catholic cardinals.
It felt like we walked in here now behind a group of what looks to me to be about 80-year-olds. And it felt like they were voting for the new pope or something like that. But so the plan for today is to explore. Firstly, I think it's brave that you're taking around 3 young children. I know you got kids of your own, but still.
No, we do that often. What's great with kids is that we get to see things with very, very fresh eyes. And every time I'm taking kids on tour, we try to focus on the kids, because we know if they have a good time, the parents will have a good time. And they always have the best questions.
I've noticed that when I've done things for my children's books at schools and stuff, the questions children ask are always better than adult questions.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
I think they don't suspect that asking this question might sound silly or things like this, and they are very good observant. Yeah.
You know what? When I dropped my 3-year-old off at school the other day, one of his classmates who speaks English to me, she says, Oliver, how do you cry? How about that?
And so you cried just like that?
Yeah, I don't know. It almost made me cry. Okay, the other thing I wanted to ask you before we walk in to this stunning chateau is, I'm sure there are people listening who've maybe even never heard of Vaux-le-Vicomte.
Probably.
Vaux-le-Vicomte.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to put you on the spot to do 60 seconds. Give me the whole story in 60 seconds. Set the scene. What is this place?
Okay, Vaux-le-Vicomte is the greatest privately owned estate in France. It's a chateau built in the 1600s, at the early days of the reign of a king called Louis XIV. Quite everybody should know about it, since I took you to Versailles a month ago. And it was built by the same team, the same architect, the same landscape designer, the same painter to decorate the inside of this chateau. And it has all the features of a royal chateau. As I told you, including amazing grounds, water jets and fountains, this symmetry that we call the French formal garden, and obviously an architecture that has been preserved very well, generations after generation. And so for me, it's where you can feel transported to this elegant France of the 1600s in the best possible way.
As you say that, I'll get a video of it, but there's a horse-drawn carriage with 2 white horses going around the grounds. The scene is set for us. I think you said before that this is the inspiration for Versailles. The blueprint, maybe.
It's in here that these 3 young... They're very young. Le Vaux, Le Nôtre, and Le Brun. The 3 leaders of... the heads of this construction. They are brand new, and they create a style that will be then performed at a large scale in Versailles. So the DNA is here, and it's really great to see that in here they're given like a blank sheet, because this is built in the middle of the woods. It's not at all suited for a chateau, but they found a way to create a wonderland in the middle of the marshes.
Well said. Let's go and explore it.
Oui, oui.
And if we're lucky, we might even see Jean-Charles de Vauguet, the owner himself.
Perfect. Hopefully he's wearing a cape like we are.
I hope so. Let's go and find him. And surprise, surprise, as I walk up towards the entrance of the chateau itself, Monsieur Jean-Charles de Vauguet taps me on the shoulder and says, hello, how you doing?
Pretty good. I'm glad to see you again.
I'm glad to see you too. How did you see me? I'm dressed in a cape like everybody else.
Well, you can't miss you, right?
I don't know about that. But it's lovely to see you again out at the chateau in very different circumstances to when I saw you last, which was, I think, the very end of confinement.
Yeah, it was COVID time, where the chateau was closed, I think, and there was lots of scaffoldings inside the chateau because we're doing the restoration of all the dome inside the Grand Salon, and I think we were just the 3 of us.
That's right, and since then, and there was someone up there painting, I think, as well.
Yeah.
I got some cool shots of all that. We were on the scaffolding right at the top.
Yeah.
I assume that's all finished right now.
Oh, yeah. Now you can see the result, because now we do some video projection on that ceiling,
Now tell me, when you were doing all the restorations and stuff, did you purposely do that because it was closed for COVID, or it just happened to be like that anyway?
No, we purposely did it because it was COVID, because you saw all the scaffoldings. I mean, it's difficult to visit. Even at some point we had to open and people were coming underneath the scaffoldings, but it was so imposing that it was better to do it during a closing time. So usually we always have 3 months or 2 months and a half of closing time in the winter. But of course, COVID was much more longer, so we took the advantage of that,
Well played, well played.
Yeah.
What about people who are visiting here? Do they often stop you and recognize you and say hello?
Well, sometimes since the pictures of the three brothers are at the entrance, so sometimes they recognize us, so sometimes they know us. So yeah, but it's always nice to meet with the visitors and talk to them, and they're always interested by a few questions. So we're very happy to stop and say hello and talk a few minutes with them. Yeah.
So if Eiffel Tower listeners come here and happen to see you in the distance, they should come and say hello.
Yeah, of course they should. Yeah.
Okay, and then for people, I mean, you're talking to people around the world now. Why should they come to Vaux-le-Vicomte on their next trip to France?
Well, after the great Olympics that we had in Paris, it was such a publicity for Paris, for France. The atmosphere was great, and a lot of Americans, a lot of foreigners, they've been to Paris, they've been to Versailles, so they should know why Versailles exists. They should discover the origin of Versailles, and that's Vaux-le-Vicomte.
Very well said. Really nice to see you again. I hope it's not 3 years before I catch you again.
Oh yeah, hope you come maybe during the candle evenings in the summertime. That's great too.
It's a date. I'll see you then. Thank you so much for having us, and I'm really excited to get inside and have a look around.
Okay, see you soon.
So Bertrand, we're in the big, what is it?
The vestibule,
The vestibule.
the big hall.
What does it even mean, vestibule?
It's sort of an entrance to a house, a mansion, a chateau. It's the room that welcome you into the domain.
And this, last time I was here, was under scaffolding.
Yeah.
Today it looks, I've got to say, I can't believe how Christmassy they've made it.
Yes, well, they celebrate Christmas in a very, very great way. Their decoration every year getting more and more stunning. It lasts for about four weeks, so it's a great moment to visit. You don't see the statues, etc., that we see normally. I think
Well, I think for people, just to put it into perspective, this isn't a Christmas tree here and there. This is Christmas on steroids, but very, very tastefully done.
it's a Christmas forest.
That's right. So this big sort of oval room that we're in, with this big domed ceiling, has got a huge Christmas tree, totally red decorations. They've put
Red carpet.
Red carpet. There's maybe 15 Christmas trees, little animals moving about. Everyone walking around in red capes.
And they even project on the walls and on the ceiling images of like an enchanted forest. So it's definitely a journey in Christmas land.
And it feels it's been the same in every room so far. So quite surprising to me how all in they've gone on Christmas and how well they've done it. But I think it's important. I know there'll be people that'll be listening to this episode not around Christmas time. Do they do similarly all-in styles on other things?
They do in the summertime, but more in the gardens. They do lots of events. They do like period costume weekends. They do Saturday dinner with candles in the garden, with the beautifully set tables with white clothing and beautiful porcelain cutlery. Plates and silver cutleries, etc. So they're very familiar to create events. And you can rent it for an event, a wedding or such. But even just for visitors, very regularly they would have a very cool setting.
It seems what's fun about this place compared to some of the more typical French chateaus is because it's privately owned, anything is possible.
Yeah, absolutely. They can decide and the next week organize something. While in places like Versailles or Chantilly, they have to be much more strict in terms of
Like the protocol.
Protocol, yeah, exactly. Here it's a mix between a chateau and a home. So they've celebrated so many Christmas in here that the two brothers that are running it now, they celebrated Christmas here, but their own Christmas, their family. So they can give us this experience of being in a home that is a chateau.
And they've done it brilliantly. Shall we keep walking?
Sure, yeah.
Someone who really loves Christmas is my wife, Lena.
Self-proclaimed Christmas lover over here.
As a Swede as well, you take cozy Christmas very seriously.
Oh yes, it's a whole thing.
Tell me what you think about everything you've seen.
I'm very, very impressed. First of all, I mean, it's magical, it's enchanted. I feel like this is way more special and, more work behind this than the big not supermarkets.
I mean, Galerie Lafayette? That old
big
supermarket.
Department stores. Yes, no, but really.
It's true. I think I didn't realize the depth of these Christmas. Every single room. And I think what you have to remember is the rooms themselves are stunning.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that as a backdrop, you can't... Hard to fail, but really they managed.
They're almost overshadowed. These beautiful... Like, these
Yeah,
people
you
walk
hardly
through...
notice the rooms,
Yeah.
which it says a lot.
And even, like, so now we're down in the kitchen. And even down in the kitchen, they've got all these... Like, they've redone the floor with sort of autumnal leaves. They've got little sort of gingerbread houses and stuff.
I mean, the attention to detail is pretty astonishing.
And Bertrand was saying that they're going bigger and bigger every year.
Where is it going to end?
Yeah, I don't know. Bertrand's right behind you. Bertrand, Lena was asking about Emily in Paris. She said, was there a scene set here or something?
Not yet.
Did I?
I don't know. I thought I heard you say.
Well, why not? Was there? Not yet.
Not yet, but I think that would be a perfect setting for it.
Someone needs to write a letter to Emily to come over here.
But have there been a lot of films and movies set out here in Vaux-le-Vicomte?
Yes, tons of them. Actually, most of the time, when you have a film that is set in France in the 1700s, most of the scenes, especially indoor scenes, are filmed here. Even if it's pretended to be in Versailles, or it's so hard to film it inside the Palace of Versailles.
Hang on, let me get this straight. You're saying that when you see Versailles on the TV in a movie or a TV show set in Versailles, it might be in Vaux-le-Vicomte?
Maybe 95% of the time, yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's close. I mean, it's close enough in terms of decoration, of mood, of obviously not with all the Christmas lights, and it's also much easier to close the chateau and film here for a few days than it would be in Versailles, where it's only one day per week you can do so.
So when you're watching it, if it's 95%, when you and other tour guides are watching these movies, do you watch it just obviously that's Vaux-le-Vicomte, or are you going, oh my gosh, it's Vaux-le-Vicomte, how can they say this is Versailles?
No, well, in between, I would say. Every time there's a movie like The Three Musketeers or etc., we go with guides, and we try to be the fastest guide to identify which chateau that is filmed in.
Guide games.
Yes, exactly.
I would hate to be in the cinema with you guys.
Oh, yeah. Everybody else does.
So this, I'm trying to think if it's not Christmas, if you're just here during the summer, for example, you would take your tours down here and show the kitchens for what they are and the story behind it, and
yes. All the history of now we celebrate the French cuisine, etc. It really is during these years that the very elegant, either the recipes for the gastronomy, but also the whole setting of the dinner parties is invented throughout these years. And the master of the kitchens here was a man called François Vatel, who is a legend for all French chefs. And he started his career working here, and the apex of it was the big party in 1661, after which Fouquet was arrested. But he kept working for very important lords, and he ended up his career in Chantilly Chateau, which could be a nice destination for another day trip. So,
I'm up for that. This it feels to me that Vaux-le-Vicomte is sort of a like the origin story for so much of France.
Yes. In terms of French design, absolutely. All of what we call in French le grand siècle, the great century, the golden age of the 1600s, Vaux-le-Vicomte is the one that sets the trend.
Bertrand, we are walking through the perfectly manicured gardens. Let's see if we can get a listen of this here. And we're approaching the back of the chateau, which to me is much more beautiful.
I agree. I think it was designed to be observed and admired from the garden side, much more than when you arrive. It's the point of these places is that you keep being surprised and astonished as you walk through it.
I think, and you were saying about the garden that we've just been exploring, that that they dug it out in such a manner that you can, like, you could see the Hercules statue from when you walk out of the chateau. But as you keep walking, it's like more bits keep getting revealed to you. Suddenly there's a big canal, suddenly there's a pond.
Yes, the whole estate pans down all the way to the canal. So from the chateau, you see the far end of the garden, but not everything that's in the middle. So as you walk, it's kind of unfold in front of your eyes, which keeps the awe feeling throughout the whole walk.
And it is a magnificent feeling and a magnificent garden. But I want to talk about some of the people that are my friends who are out with us today have lived in Paris for about 10 years and said that they never visited out here before. And they said they wanted to as well. Why do you think people don't come out here?
Well, 300,000 people come here, but it's mostly locals who come here driving.
Right.
It's not so easy to reach. You don't have a train station nearby. The closest one will be in Melun, and from there, from time to time, you have shuttles. So probably the access to it is difficult.
It strikes me there's probably a lot of tourists who don't want to rent cars and drive in a foreign country.
Absolutely, yeah. And also there are other chateaux that are accessible by train or metro. But to me, that's what makes this place so great too, is that it's not, you don't have 3 McDonald's nearby, and it feels you're in the woods in a chateau as you were 300 years ago.
I mean, yeah, I think when we came here, we came in a van. You guys drove us out here, which I think is the best way to do it.
Yes.
I think you drive out here is the best way to do it, but it doesn't surprise me. 300,000 people a year. I mean,
compared to 10 million
in
Versailles, yeah.
Wow. What about what we've done?
It's not a lot. 300,000 is not a lot.
Well, we're walking back to the van right now, and it's been a half a day that we've spent here. Is there other things around here that you could fill it out to be a day, or is it just the woods?
Yes, we actually usually combine this with the royal chateau of Fontainebleau, which is quite famous for being the last residence of Napoleon before he abdicated. But it's actually a chateau that dates back to the Middle Ages. So we have 800 years of kings and queens and emperors who've lived there. The city of Fontainebleau is pretty nice too, has some nice restaurants. So we combine Vaux-le-Vicomte with morning in Fontainebleau, lunch sometime in Barbizon Forest. Some people know.
Yeah, I've heard of that. I've never been there though.
It's a beautiful village. It's like a one-street village at the entrance of the Fontainebleau Forest. A lot of painters lived there, Corot, for instance, and it's a great place for lunch. And it's halfway through between Fontainebleau and Vaux-le-Vicomte.
There you go. So the day trip, for people who are thinking to do a day trip, firstly, if you want to come on your own steam, rent a car if you're going to come out here. If you want the brains to go with it, someone to explain how it all works, Bertrand or any of his team from My Private Paris are the ones you should check out. I think a half-day trip is a lovely way to spend half a day, but it sounds to me that a full-day trip with Fontainebleau included would be pretty epic as well.
I agree, and especially since we drive east of Paris, well, why not see 2 beautiful chateaux?
If you can do 2 chateaux in a day, you should always do it.
Exactly, I think so too.
Now, the last thing I'll mention is you said 300,000 visitors a year, but they need, 9 million euros a year?
Yes, to maintain this whole estate costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
So they raise about 3 plus million with tickets, but 9 million, it takes a lot. So that's why they do a lot of crowdfunding and private events and movie filming, etc.
I love it, and it inspired me to either try and do an event, I kind of hinted it to Jean-Charles before, an Eiffel Tower event at the chateau, or micro crowdfunding one day to get an Eiffel Tower bench out there for all the listeners to go and sit on and take pictures. What do you think?
That could be great.
I'll have a think about it, but in the meantime, Bertrand Dalmont from My Private Paris, thank you for taking me out. There'll be links in the show notes below to book a similar tour yourself. But otherwise, everything we've been walking around today, we've been filming, so there'll be stuff on YouTube, social media, and there'll be links to find My Private Paris below. Thanks so much for bringing me out here.
Merci.